Dana White knows that he doesn't have to pay any of these fighters unless they fight. Even under contract, they have to fight to make their money. So he knows right now the UFC isn't losing anything. What are they losing? They're losing, obviously, the pay-per-views where they could be making hundreds of millions of dollars. Absolutely. But they're not losing any money to these fighters. They sign these contracts. They're guaranteed contracts if they fight. If they don't fight, they don't get paid. And those are facts. It's not like the WWE, where it's entertainment. Or baseball, the MLB. Baseball players are still making their money. Even though there'll probably be some cuts because of the season, and it might be cut down to 90 games or 80 games or however many games they're going to be. The NBA too. The NBA players are getting they're getting their money guaranteed. That's all guaranteed money. Mixed martial artists, that's not guaranteed money. They're not getting that money, even though they're under contract. They're not getting it. But in a WWE, you're getting your money. Push or shove. And that's why these guys' contracts are probably up and he released them.
Because even when they're home, even when these superstars are home, and you can't.
That's a great superstars.
Even when they are home, I'm not even going to go with that. I mean, they put their bodies on the line. I'm not going to. I mean, they get beat up. I'm not going to. They beat themselves up with all that stuff. I'm not even going to go there. But the funny thing about it is, even when they're home, they are promoting their brand. They are promoting WWE, whether they're on Instagram, whether they're on Facebook. They are promoting merchandise. They're constantly promoting, even while they're home. Something that, unfortunately, UFC fighters can't do because they're just paid to fight. There's no merchandise. There's no endorsement with their selling their merchandise or something. How much money do you? Well, first off, how many T-shirts do you actually see with the fighter's name on it? That's not John Jones, McGregor, Nunez. How many
all
fighters?
All the superstars. That's it.
Exactly, just the superstars. Now, you're telling me
superstars
wouldn't. Terrible. Wouldn't you? Now, I'm just simply saying
they are. They're superstars.
But here's the thing: fighters like, I would say guys a little bit lower down on the
Joanna.
ranks.
Joanna doesn't.
Joanna doesn't have.
She doesn't have a shirt. I've never seen her have a shirt.
Joanna is the toughest woman in all the divisions. I'm not saying she's the most successful, but she's the toughest fighter in any of the female divisions. And do you see a shirt with her name on it?
No.
And
Zhang too.
Would you say she's a fan?
How about Zhang? She's
Who do you think is more popular, Joanna or Amanda Nunez? Who was more of a fan favorite?
Joanna.
Right. Don't you think the UFC could capitalize by doing some kind of merchandising with her in some way, shape, or form? Mm-hmm. But what do? They don't. So they're dropping the ball. And that would have been another avenue for these fighters to get paid while they are not fighting, just like they do in the WWE.
Right.
But they don't. You know what I mean? They keep dropping the ball.
But this is why when you're doing self-promotion and you talk about all these, like Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley is a great fighter who he stepped away from mixed martial arts for 2 years. Finally got a fight, and he dominated the fight.
First round.
Okay? Dominated the fight. He got bigger, got stronger. Everybody says that this guy could be the next. He's the guy. Sean O'Malley is the guy that out of all the guys that the UFC has, he is promoting. You could promote him. He's funny. He's not a bad-looking guy, and he can sell a product.
Now, if you did something with O'Malley, a little half-hour thing on ESPN, whatever the hell whatever free TV you're allowed to be on in cable nowadays. Okay, like it was for Fox when it was on, what was it? It used to be on Fox Sports.
Fox, yeah.
When they used to have Fox Sports.
Now it's on ESPN.
But now, unless it's a countdown, which you have to watch on YouTube because you don't want to deal with the apps on ESPN.
It's all about hits because you know why? They get paid for as many hits as everybody that watches those things or whatever, those clips.
Yeah.
And it's by the millions. Guess what? They make money off that through ads.
Who makes money?
The UFC.
Not the fighters that are on it, right?
No, the UFC.
Not the actual, if this was a TV show, not the actors on the show or the talent on the show, but just the people that turn on the cameras.
Right.
So don't you think, like I said before, O'Malley, a perfect guy. They have clips of all of his fights. They have background footage from back in the day just to put up a little clip of him, you know what I mean, a little blurb or whatever, and they do a little half-hour thing on whatever, YouTube, this and that. You're telling me that wouldn't educate some of the fans out there and promote somebody who's not necessarily in the top 5 in the rankings, but make him a fan favorite before he has to be one of those top two guys, which is ultimately the only time you see a fan favorite because they do not educate the fans of who these guys are, and it's a shame.
And that's why I think if you're going to ask me who's the next big superstar the UFC has, Sean O'Malley would probably be the guy that if you go up and down the roster of what they have, Sean O'Malley left mixed martial arts for 2 years. 2 years, stayed completely away from mixed martial arts to better himself, to train, to really work on his stand-up game. That's what he needed to do. He's a great ground fighter. He needed to work on his stand-up game. Well, he worked it out, and then he went into his fight, and he knocked the guy out in the first round. And to me, that's the guy. If you're going to promote something and you want to draw somebody to be the next big superstar for the UFC, and he is a draw, he's the guy. The way he fluffs his hair, the glasses. I mean, guy's a joke. He's something to laugh about. I think it's funny. Every time I watch this guy talk, it's something it's must hear, must see TV when you watch Sean O'Malley speak. Even when they did that UFC before the fight, whatever they did on YouTube, and when they followed him around and stuff like that, that was funny. That was funny. And he wasn't even the headline guy. He was the first fight of the headline.
Actually, even more so than that, he was the main event on the prelim show. He didn't even get main card billing.
But they put him on the roster where they actually followed him with the camera. Because he's a sellable fighter. You can sell him. You want to find a product, you want to find something that you could sell. Sean O'Malley is the guy. That's who but they're not going to. That's the problem with Dana White right now. He's picking the wrong guys to build to build his organization around. Donald Cerrone, you gave Donald Cerrone, and I love Donald Cerrone. He's a great fighter, great guy, everything about him. He was a good fighter. He's not that anymore. He's not. After practically getting his cheekbone broken by a shoulder, and getting knocked out in 40-something seconds against Conor McGregor when you were talking all that crap, and I believe he was paid off. He shouldn't be fighting anymore in the UFC. This guy is still fighting, and again, Demetrius Johnson is over there in Mickey Mouse world, not fighting for the UFC. And to me, that's a problem. That's a problem if that's what you're trying to sell. As a UFC fan, as a combat sports fan, I'd rather not watch the UFC anymore. Because the UFC is becoming the WWE. It's sports entertainment. That's what it is. It's not fighting anymore. It's not mixed martial arts. And by the way, when was the last person you've seen get tapped out by an armbar or a Kimura or a chokehold? All these fights now are knockouts or striking, all that other stuff.
Or decisions.
Yeah, why? Where is the mixed martial arts in MMA anymore? I remember when Ronda Rousey would come in, you knew she was going to tap you out with an armbar.
And here's the thing. It goes back to what does Dana White want in his organization? When was the last time? There were a lot of fighters. I'm going to bring up one fighter's name, okay? And you know this guy as well as everybody else. No. Even more, I would say even more of a talent that was never brought into the UFC. Andre Harrison.
Yeah, you said that last week.
Andre Harrison, okay, was a solid wrestler. He was always in that $1 million fight for the PFL. Had a great upcoming whether it was Ring of Combat, Legacy, whatever organizations. He was a dominant fighter, but a lot of his fights would be that wrestler. He's holding the guy down, not the whole stand up or knockout. You know what I mean? The whole like trading punches thing.
Right.
And with Dana White, if you have somebody who's 27-0, they have 27 decisions, all wins, unanimous wins, he's not going to sign that guy because there's no flash to it. Even though the part of it is you just got to win. It's winning.
I thought you were going to bring up Damian Maia or the boring fighters that actually take you down and try to tap you out. I miss that in mixed martial arts. I miss that in the UFC. When I used to think it was so boring because I saw it all the time, and it was just so boring. Somebody trying to tie an arm up to try to get to the leg. Always try to, try to
that chess match on the ground,
and that's what I miss. And now you don't see it anymore. You see these guys stand up and try to knock each other out. It's not boxing.
The days of ground and pound are coming back. I'm telling you, the days of ground and pound
are coming back. That's
what you're going to see more of. I know it.
Who?
I'm not saying who.
Who?
I'm not saying who.
Because I can't.
It's going to happen.
You can't even point the next big time superstar right now in the UFC.
Neither can you.
No, you're absolutely right. I can't.
Because it's not a. It's right now. What do you have? You have a
garbage.
You have a big stockpile
of garbage.
Of talent.
Of garbage.
Nothing
it's not talent.
promoted.
It's garbage.
It's talent.
It's garbage.
It's talent.
It is garbage.
No, the way it's put together is garbage. They're not garbage. The way it's put together is garbage.
Listen. When I say garbage, it's not. I'm not talking bad about the fighters saying
I'm not saying that
they're
you are.
garbage.
I'm just simply saying.
I'm saying that the way they're putting things together, fighter versus fighter, you want to build the best matchups. And Mike Washington, shout out to Mike Washington, who's a promoter. Shout out to Bobby Campbell, Eugene, Tom Kilkenny, Nick, Chris, Manchi. I mean, all you guys here, and you know this more than I do because I am not a promoter. I will strictly tell you I am not a promoter. I know nothing about promotion. Actually, I do because I do a radio show, but I'm not an MMA promoter. So I don't know. But usually you put the matchups, again, the good take-on fighters. You put the best grapplers against the best grapplers, the best stand-up fighters against the stand-up fighters, or the best grappler against the best stand-up fighter, and see where that happens. We'll see what happens with that fight. The fight matchups that the UFC are putting together now are boring. They don't make sense. None of them does. None of it does. Here, Khabib and Ferguson make sense, but they're never going to fight. You know why they're never going to fight? Because you got a guy that's running an organization that lets a guy fly all the way to Russia almost 10 days before his fight because he's got to go home and protect his family. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Khabib going to Russia helped his family or put his family at risk? That's what I'm saying. He should be right now here, and there should have been a UFC 249 because I guarantee you, if Khabib was fighting Ferguson, there would have been a UFC 249. ESPN would absolutely promote that because it would have put dollars in their pocket.
And even in this time, they why is it that they feel the need? They got to put 85 fights together on one card. They could easily get their ESPN app money if they just put 3 fights together in an hour show and did something, because you could build off of volume at least. Mm-hmm. You could build off of volume. You don't need to put this whole massive thing together. They've done it before. And we're going to go way back. I remember it was called
back.
Way back. Even when I had hair. Way back.
That's way back. That's about 25 years.
Easily. So we're talking. There was one show. It wasn't UFC 37. It was UFC 37.5. Do you remember the show? It was the Best Damn Sports Show. Do you remember?
With what's his name again?
There was a bunch of like old retired fighters, retired sports guys on it.
I never saw that.
And there was a comedian on it. It used to be on.
I'll check it out. I'll. You know what I'll do?
It was on Spike or something like that.
I'll YouTube it. I'll find it.
Robbie Lawler was on that show.
Oh God.
No, but Robbie Lawler was on it. Chuck Liddell was on it. It was 2 fights.
Oh, is Robbie Lawler a baby?
I think he just got his driver's license, actually. He just got his driver's license, and it was so back that I think Chuck Liddell just legally learned how to drink. But that's how long ago this was. Okay? It was 37, but it wasn't 37. It was 37.5, and they specifically put it on free TV. And it was 2 of the best fights you've seen, and it was free. And I know that free word scares a lot of people, but sometimes when you give away the free fights, you're actually investing in building your fan base. Mm-hmm. And Dana White got away from that. Because now, even the damn free fights are on this freaking app that you got to have a subscription to. It's still a big problem. And just like any problem, you're going to keep talking about it until it gets fixed. And it's not getting fixed.
It's never going to get fixed.
No.
It's never going to get fixed. And that's why, going back to the UFC and Dana White, this will never get fixed until Dana White is gone. All this stuff, the matchups and everything that they're doing right now. Now, I was reading a story that Daniel Cormier has come out and said that when Dana White wants to step down, he would love to be the president of the UFC. Now, I like Daniel Cormier. He's a great wrestler, one of the greatest wrestlers we've ever seen come out of the UFC. No question that he is. But this guy was highly overrated as a fighter. Highly overrated. Now, I don't know how he would be as a president, because he might be great. Who knows? But we need a younger, more respectable, game-changing promoter to take over the UFC because Dana White, he used to be that guy. He's not that anymore.